one on this arm like this, and on the other one, they had my other arm like that. And I just seemed to lift up to the same height they were off the ground, and we just moved into the crowd.
Now inside, how did they lay you out? Do you remember how it happened?
Yes, I didn't see any tables or chairs or anything in there. I'm not saying there wasn't in there because the light was almost blinding, but I didn't see any. And when they carried me inside, they seemed to just lean me back, you know. And this eye, well, I keep referring to it as an eye, and it moved up to in front of me about this close, and it started right at my eyes, looking me right in the eye. And it hesitated there for a few seconds, and it just started moving over my entire body. When they brought me from the craft along this area here, and they didn't drop me, they just released me back to the ground. And I fell. I don't know why my legs were weak. I don't know why it was the fright or what it was, but I fell onto the ground. And that's when I seen Calvin. He's standing right over here in this area, and he was standing facing the river with his arms outstretched like that, just like he was staring at something. I think there has to be a reason why that Calvin and me was picked.
Maybe because you could take it.
Well, it might be. I don't know. I think that they know more of what's going on down here on this earth than we think. And I don't know. They might have been, you might say, looking for somebody that could, you might say, hold up under the strain, and convince people that there is another world and there's some kind of life on that world.
Well, well, well. Hello, Ed. Good to see you.
Good evening, John. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you.
Good, good, good. So that was a clip from two guys. Well, that was only one of them, obviously, but that was a clip from two guys who were abducted allegedly in 1973, taken up on a spaceship while fishing. And they were then put back on or returned back to the Earth, and they reported it to the police. And the police, the sheriff, the local sheriff thought, these guys are having it on, they're at it. So what they did was they put them in a room together, secret recording device, i.e. a hidden camera, and just left them alone to see what they would start saying. And to everyone's surprise, they kept saying, what the hell happened? Where were we? They just kept talking about the abduction thing. So it was interesting, and I just thought I'd put it in there as a little teaser.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a good clip because that particular story is actually one of the more convincing UFO abduction stories that I've heard. I mean, there are plenty that are just batshit crazy that have no verification, and it's just one person claiming that they had sex with an alien or whatever. But those two guys, I can't remember their names, but they're fairly well known in UFO circles. And it's the fact that because I think after they went to the police, they were actually interviewed separately to start with.
Yeah.
And then the police put them in a room together and left the audio running, hoping that they would start kind of, oh, how'd it go with you? And the two stories were the same, pretty much. I mean, obviously, two different people are going to give two slightly different perspectives on a story, but the salient points of what happened to them were correct.
Yeah.
And as you said, once they were put into a room together afterwards, they were clearly had been through something, and they were absolutely convinced because they didn't sort of start discussing what one had said to the other, the cops, and get their story straight, and the sort of thing that you might expect from two hoaxers.
Yeah.
And it's compelling. I mean, the stuff that they went through doesn't sound particularly nice either.
Well, it doesn't. So it was 42-year-old Charles Hickson and 19-year-old Calvin Parker in Jackson County, Mississippi. And they were fishing off a pier in the west bank of the Pascagoula River in Mississippi when they heard a whirring, whizzing sound, saw two flashing blue lights, and observed an oval-shaped object 30 to 40 feet. So they claimed they were conscious but paralysed while three creatures with robotic slit mouths and crab-like pincers took them aboard this object and subjected them to an
It's yeah. I don't know. I mean, why? I do believe that those guys, they went through some sort of experience.
yeah.
One does wonder why E.T. would pick a couple of poor fishermen to abduct. I mean, maybe they were just
Yeah,
convenient.
yeah, I know. I just find the whole thing a bit strange because, I mean, if they've been doing this for God knows how many decades, if not years, have they not really examined the hell out of everything by now? I mean,
Well, you would think so. I mean, there are
yeah,
there are so in the more sort of fringe. I realize UFO stuff is fairly fringe, but
yeah,
on the fringe of the fringe, there are people who talk about these visitors either being aliens who are studying us, or there's one theory that they're actually future humans that have lost something in their genome or something and they're trying to fix it. I don't, like I said, it's
yeah.
fringe of the
Look,
fringe stuff, but you
I,
do have to wonder
I'm
what.
no expert. I'm no expert, Ed, but when you probed one ass, have you not pretty much found out everything you needed?
Well, this is a good point. I mean, if you've got the technology to have these sorts of craft in the first place,
Yeah,
you would think you'd only need maybe a couple of men and a couple of women and a couple of
yeah.
kids, and you'd run them under your like handy dandy alien scanner, and you
Yeah,
just know it's like this is the human race. I mean, biologically, once you strip away the skin, we're not that dissimilar. I mean,
yeah,
men
we're
and
pretty
women
similar.
have some differences, but
Some
I
skeletal
mean,
differences.
women,
Little bit of
yeah,
skeletal differences between different ethnicities,
sure.
but not a lot of difference.
Well, you would think the aliens would they'd pick up a couple of black people and a couple of Asians, a
Yeah,
couple of Americans, a
yeah,
couple of Europeans, and do their scanning, and then off they trot. But
yeah.
it's
They keep coming back
unless
for more.
absolutely, and unless of course there's something else going on, and it's a cover for some sort of deep state, highly advanced. But even them,
Yeah, well, the old X Files was a kind of recurring theme in the X Files, wasn't it?
mhm,
They were trying to do what alien human hybrid was in a year.
absolutely. And I mean, the thing is that there are a lot of stories about alien abductions now, on the basis that they're not all going to be true, you would discount. But even if you discounted 95% of them,
Yeah,
that's still a bloody hell of a lot of people that are being
that is.
picked up and experimented on. And in some cases, they're being repeatedly abducted.
Yeah,
And then there's the stories of um, like the brain chips being found in them and all kinds of
yeah, well,
crazy
that's
shit.
true. Funny wee bits of weird, strange
Mm.
tech found inside. Anyway, right. So, thank you everyone for turning up for this sounding we have tonight. We've got Shalini, not going to trip again. Good to see you again. Beats and tapes. Ed the tech. Oh, no, you're a the techie.
Up here.
Gunky Fadgets. Hello, Gunky. Dave Tomo, Steph Wright. Beats and tapes. Who else we got? Amy Bag of Donuts. Yep. Enjoying her t-shirts, I hope. Who else we got? Ray Greenwood. Julie C. Nectardarius.
There's no Bex this evening. Where's she gone? Probably falling asleep.
Of that. Espresso Mechanic TV. Yeah, we've got a good turnout this evening, haven't we? Just Adam's in there as well. and the other Adam. So we've got both Adams. Jolly good, jolly good. Good to see you all. I hope you're all doing well. I've had a kind of shitty week because I've been ripping out. Because we had to close the gym, effectively because there was no point in running a charity. I had to turn the unit to the. Basically, I've been taking the kit out, taking down walls, taking out doors, stuff around, painting and kind of stuff. Hopefully, I get that's us finished now. Back on making content again because big backlog of content. Ben's carried the channels for the last. Right, Ed. Enough of my woes.
Well, it's. I mean, having to close down a business is never a nice thing to do. I feel for you. It's. But as you said, it means you free up time and energy you can put into other things.
Yeah. Well, there's Bex in now. The tad late. Just a tad late.
Yeah.
Just check up on you next week, young lady.
Come on.
Check up on you next week. I hope everyone saw Ed on TNT this morning.
Yeah, it was good fun. I liked chatting to Abby about the seagulls.
I was on TNT on Monday morning on the Rick and Natalie show. Ben was on there on Tuesday. Rick and Natalie.
Yeah, I wasn't on with them last week, but that's fine because it kind of gets in the way with work a little bit. But it's, they're nice. I like Ben and Nat. I've been a fan of Nat's on Twitter for ages. She's got spunk, although that's possibly not the right word to use. I meant it in an old-fashioned sense.
Yeah, I know. It's like I had a gay old time.
Feisty.
You know?
I'll put it that way. Put it a different way. She's feisty.
Yeah. It's like you can't say I had a gay old time anymore. Especially if you live in Brighton.
But when you read like old books and old stories and stuff, and they talk about how gay a person was, and you just think, that's just not. No.
You know, it's crazy though that the world changes and sometimes I think it changes too fast for us old folk.
Well, I think just sometimes because I'm all for change, and languages are constantly changing. No language ever stays the same, regardless of where it is. I mean, there's always new words being added, and the way that different dialects kind of crop up seemingly spontaneously. And it's fascinating. But I think a lot of modern language changes I don't like because it seems to be about making some words unacceptable and about rewriting the definition of other words to suit the agendas of the powerful people who are paying the teachers and paying to have the books printed and all of this stuff. And then all of the gender nonsense where it's like pronouns. I mean, I'm lucky that I work in a small company, and if anyone at work tells me that I have to start putting pronouns in my email, they're going to be told to F off. And I do from time to time tell my work colleagues to F off.
Quite right. I think that's an important thing to get across, that you're not to be trifled with. But I think that's quite an important point about the language and how it's been rewritten, because you know how Ben had touched on the reclassification of the Andrews and
saw that earlier in the week.
Yeah,
it's like Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, yeah.
It's being upgraded in the UK because of discriminatory language. I mean,
well, the discriminatory language is two references to Hottentots.
Oh.
Right? Now, as far as I'm aware now, that Hottentots is meant to be a derogatory term for people, Khoi tribe or something like that.
Yeah, Southern Africa.
Yeah, but Hottentots had a very, very distinctive shape. But the world history is being rewritten as we sit here, because if you go on Google or DuckDuckGo or anything like that and search for, you can't find images. You find
I use pre-search,
yeah,
and
or
I mean
maybe
I haven't tried searching on pre-search, but it's better than the other ones.
have a look and see if you can still find images, because if you do it on like the standard, the standard search engine, like DuckDuckGo, Google, and whatever, you don't find their proper images anymore. You'll get paintings, but you won't get the actual pictures that were taken of them, and show the very distinctive shape that this tribe had.
Yeah, if you look on
crazy.
If you look on pre-search, go to presearch.com. And yeah, there's some very old. There's plenty of paintings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, here's just like on the first row of results, there's a picture of a Hottentot lady with a very, very large butt. I mean, this woman is rivaling Kim Kardashian in the size of her derriere.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's
there's also a
that's
picture
what the
of ducks, because there's a duck called a Hottentot as well.
There you go. But so Google and DuckDuckGo, and I think has Google got something to do with DuckDuckGo now? Do they own it or something?
Yeah, I mean, I stopped using DuckDuckGo for ages. My two personal search engines of choice are well, when I'm exploring rabbit holes and looking for actual information about stuff I know is going to be hidden, then I'll use Brave, search.brave.com and presearch.com. And presearch is brilliant because it pulls in results from other search engines. So it looks at Bing, it looks at Google, and you will tend to find stuff on presearch that you don't find on Google anymore.
That's good. Oh, pre-search. Right. Okay.
I mean, the other one that I use from time to time, actually, if you're doing technical stuff, particularly trying to make sense of Microsoft sometimes dense documentation, going to Bing and using their the Bing Copilot is actually really good at helping a person decipher Microsoft technical documentation. So that's a tip for any budding techies out there.
Yeah, Ed was pixelated last week as well. Remember you were pixelated for some of the show, and then you got better.
Is it my camera?
No, I don't think it's your camera. I think it's to do with bandwidth. John's mic is a bit glitchy tonight. What is going on?
I don't have anything else running. I mean, I can shut.
Right. So what's wrong with my mic? Is it too? I don't seem to be getting the right level of audio.
Well, you're a little bit quiet for me when we started.
Jelani says John's fine.
Is Ed AI generated tonight? No, Adam, I am actually here.
Oh God! Adam has an AI addiction. The boy really needs to. He needs to go to some kind of deprogramming center or something. Where they remove his ability to use AI. It's quite frightening.
Well, this is the thing when you get a new toy. I mean, I'm very enamored of large language models at work, particularly the GitHub Copilot. Saves me so much time.
Yeah.
Mainly just looking through documentation to find a particular function attribute, or even just to get it. Sometimes it's just quicker to ask the AI to write the code for me when I could still write it myself. It's just faster to get the machine to do it.
But you know what's going to happen, because that's fine because you know how to do that. But the next generation is just going to get the AI to write the code, and they'll never be able to fix it if the AI gets it wrong.
Well, then they're in deep trouble because
oh, they are.
I mean, depending if it's something simple, I'll get the correct answer back first time. But if I'm asking it something more complicated, I've had to go back and forth with it 5 or 6 times before it actually produces something that works in the way I want it to.
Yeah, I asked Adam to make me a movie, and he still hasn't. Right, I asked him to make me a clip that we could use on the show, and he still hasn't done it. He's tried a couple of times. I said, don't use AI, right? you can use AI to generate your backdrop or whatever, but don't use AI. And he sent me 2 videos through that were AI, and they were awful, just awful. And yeah,
there is a skill to it. I mean, it's to some extent it's down to the AI. They're very prompt dependent, and you can't just ask it something once and expect it to give you back what you want. Sometimes you have to change how you ask it the question. You have to do a little bit of research on the different types of prompt words to use, because these language models are triggered by specific language. So you can change one word in a prompt and get a completely different output.
But what about Google when they find out it's putting diverse in front of everything?
I wouldn't. I mean, I don't trust Google for anything now. I have to use Gmail and stuff at work.
And yet,
we use Google Docs. But
what was Google's original motto? Don't be evil.
Well, yeah, I think they got rid of that ages ago.
Yeah, but that was their original motto, wasn't it? Don't be evil, or don't do evil, something like that.
Thing is that Google, their PageRank algorithm and their whole idea for how to rank web pages was revolutionary. I mean, I remember the days before Google, and we were using AltaVista and Yahoo, and you'd go from one search engine to the next as someone came up with some new tech, and then Google came along, and suddenly Google became a synonym with searching, and people now use them interchangeably. And at the start, Google was amazing. It was very fast.
Yeah.
The index was really good, and you could actually find good information because it wasn't being run through this woke filter that they have now.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're going to end up damaging themselves because there are plenty of alternatives. And once they get a reputation for monkeying with their results, people lose trust in them. And once you lose trust in a search engine, why use it when there are others?
You're 100% right, and I mean it's even if you think about it, you know the Why files. You ever seen that? Yeah.
I love the Why files.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I used to watch it every week, and so did Ben. And see when he started going heavy on the AI, and for his illustrations, and then started getting really lazy with the research, I've stopped watching it. The one that really killed it. The one that killed it for me was the one about the Neanderthals, because it was like almost entirely wrong the way it was presented. So I completely lost interest.
I like his format, and
yeah.
I don't always agree with his research. I did watch that Neanderthals one, and I mean, I found it interesting, but it did seem a bit far-fetched. However, that being said, there are other recent shows that he's done. They're absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And he has he's you can't.
Yeah, well,
I've heard that always get it right.
I've heard he's kind of stepped back from using the AI too much now. I think he got some pushback on it.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then that just makes him a good content creator, because you ultimately, and that goes the same for us. I mean, we create content for other people to enjoy, and if those other people aren't enjoying it, then
well, they'll leave like Dave did. Bye, Dave. Anyway, that's what was I going to say?
You're doing your commercial thing, aren't you?
What?
Your commercial. You're not doing a little advert.
No. I was going to ask about what's going on. What's going on, Ed, in the world? Because everybody famous, or in the royals, or the Pope, or whatever, all seem to be getting ill or dying.
Or not being seen in public.
Or not being seen in public. Where are all these people?
Wales.
Yeah. I mean,
well, this is a good question. I mean, there's been rumors about Jacob Rothschild dying for about the last 10 years. And I mean, in his case, the problem with Rothschilds is you never get rid of them, because as soon as one pops his clogs, there's at least 4 or 5 other little bastards to take his place.
Well, they make sure of that though, don't they?
And I don't know, and the thing about, because someone said to me the other day, yeah, but not all Rothschilds are bad. And I'm like, yeah, they're the ones that end up having car crashes and plane crashes and stuff. But I mean, in answer to your question, I don't know. I mean, there is the rabbit hole explorer side of me. My whiskers are twitching.
Mm-hmm.
My rabbit whiskers are twitching about this
Yeah.
one, because it seems very suspicious. I mean, the Pope going into hospital and then coming out of hospital, and the US Secretary of Defense going off for a
No, I
week or
heard that.
two and
I heard,
knowing where he was. And
I heard that Biden had been taken into hospital the other day. Was that true or not?
that was physical.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
no, the only
Oh, it was
controversial, yeah,
right. Okay.
yeah, because the US president has has
Yeah.
a much publicized annual physical where, and the most controversial thing to come out of that was the fact that he's not taking a cognitive test. And when asked about it, that idiot mophead woman who's just the official spokesman,
Karine Jean-Pierre.
Yeah, and she basically said,
Sideshow
well,
Bob.
the president passes his cognitive test every day because this is a really demanding job.
Oh.
And then when you actually look at video of him, he doesn't know who he's talking to. He called that horrible widow of Navalny Yolanda instead of Yulia or whatever her name is. I mean, he gets presidents' names wrong. He called El Sisi the president of Mexico, and he's the president of Egypt. I mean, it's really quite disturbing that
Mexico,
Egypt has.
It's all the same.
I mean, I would think, yeah, well, Mexico, Egypt, I guess they look a little bit similar. That's about where it ends. But I mean, you would kind of be more worried about about someone like Joe Biden having the nuclear football, as it's called, which is a briefcase of
I don't think Joe Biden's got access to those codes anymore, mate. I
doubt it. But
I think the adults have got that. You don't want to. Here, have an ice cream. Have an ice cream, Joe.
Well, the thing is that the Americans are having the same problem as the Brits, because the last time, I don't know if you saw I think it was a few weeks ago, but the Americans were going to do a test of one of their Minuteman missiles that they've got in the silos in places like North Dakota and places like that, and these things don't work because they've been sitting in the ground for like 30 years, and obviously ICBMs don't. They're kind of not designed to be sitting around, and obviously there's radiation issues going on from the warheads and all kinds of stuff. So
do they not swap that stuff out though?
Well, you would think so, but it seems that neither the British nor the Americans have really been maintaining their shit properly.
Oh, what about the Germans? Did you see what they did?
Well,
they tried to shoot down a Reaper in the Red Sea. And then nearly blew their ship up because their missile went awry.
Oh dear! I mean, the Royal Navy nearly blew up one of their own submarines with Grant Shapps on board. And I mean, obviously, the missile, the Trident, was launched while the sub was submerged, so the sub wasn't really in any danger.
And the Trident wouldn't have had a warhead on it, but even so.
But it's still, I mean, if you're gonna, it's like the British government doing everything that they can to start a war with the Russians, and I mean,
why?
What are we going to fight it with? None of the people, all the people in the country hate the government, and very few of them are going to enlist in the military anyway. We've got 2 aircraft carriers that we've never actually put into service because they haven't worked right since they came out of dry dock. And now today I read a story that they're talking about maybe having to sell the Prince of Wales, but then who the hell would buy it?
Who would buy the Prince of Wales?
one aircraft carrier for sale, bit of a fixer-upper. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, well,
Yeah, but it doesn't even. It's not even a proper aircraft carrier because it doesn't have catapults. It's only got that ski jump.
Yeah, but theoretically it doesn't need them because
but if you want to sell it as an aircraft carrier, that means the people that are going to buy it need to have F-35s.
Well, I mean, they're not exactly going to sell it to North Korea, so
yeah. But who's got F-35s? Britain and the UK.
Well, who's going to buy it? I mean,
US.
the Estonians or the
Well, I tell you who could buy
someone?
it. Argentina.
Oh, wouldn't that be funny? We sold Argentina an aircraft carrier, and then they used it to retake the
that would be ironic.
No, that would be genuinely hilarious.
Yeah.
But I mean, but also the bloody thing can't get out of port. I mean, we've got this situation in the Red Sea where we're supposed to be trying to stop the Houthis, which is really failing because they still keep blowing up our ships or sinking our ships or setting them on fire or whatever.
Yeah, we've lost your picture, Ed.
But after that fiasco, I mean, it's like who would buy an Abrams tank or a Leopard 2
I know.
tank?
Ed, we've lost your picture.
You lost my picture.
Yeah.
Let me try. No, that's all right. Let me try stopping and starting my video because I've still got it on this end.
It's got your little man. Ah, there you are. You're back. Hello, Ed. It's, Yazzie said that they're finding your background screen rather distracting.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
Oh no, it's
Turn
fine.
it off. Yeah, it's just a YouTube loop. Where's the remote? I'll put the fish back on.
Back to the fish. Yeah, the fish are nice. Oh, right. So this is the question I was going to ask, and maybe you can help me out here because if all these billionaires are building bunkers, and some of them, and you can come on to that, some of them are building them in rather strange places to build a bunker. But if they're all building bunkers, it kind of tells me that we don't have a secret space force, because if we had a secret space force, they wouldn't need bunkers, would they?
Well, no. But then if it's a secret space force, they're not really going to tell anybody about it.
Yeah, but all the elites will know, because they'll be taken away. And
some of them would, but
where do you think Elon Musk would go? Bunker or space?
He's probably do both. I mean, if you look at Jeff Bezos, the compound that he's building in North Dakota, somewhere like on the west coast, but not quite past the Rockies, so sort of Colorado, that kind of area. But he's actually doing both. He's got this.
Colorado's in the middle, over near the west coast.
No, sorry, the Rockies.
Right. Okay. So what side of the Rockies? East side or east side of the Rockies?
Side. Yeah, no, the eastern side.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, he's doing both. He's actually building a complex in a mountain and a nearby launch pad for his whatever the Amazon rocket ship is called.
the dick-shaped rocket ship.
Yeah, I don't know.
Blue Origin.
That's it. AWS.
I can never, ever forgive Jeff Bezos for taking Captain Kirk to space in a rocket shaped like a giant dildo.
Yeah, but most rockets are kind of shaped like giant dildos.
But Bezos's was like it's almost like a copy of the one from Spaceballs.
Well, the most hilarious one, as I was saying before the show, is Mark Zuckerberg building his compound in Hawaii. Now, if you're expecting civil unrest of some sort, then Hawaii is a good place. But I don't think that they're just building these things. There's rumors that I've heard floating around that they've been told to expect the event. but they haven't been told what that event is.
If it's
And
Earth-shift
unfortunately for
displacement, Hawaii's not going to fare well.
Oh no. So I mean Hawaii, because part of the crust displacement, um, one of the things that Ben Davidson is suggesting is that there's going to be a lot of volcanic activity, and if there's volcanic activity, Hawaii is pretty much the last place you want to be.
Yeah, and you think about it, you don't want to be anywhere in the middle of an ocean, because the ocean's going to be sloshing around and just
A little
wipe.
bit.
It's just going to wipe Hawaii clean, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
the safest place is probably Africa.
Antarctica?
Yeah, but you
Australia?
have the problem of the thing with Antarctica is it would be much more difficult to get set up there before the event.
Well,
Whereas you
yes,
could,
well, would it?
especially if you've got.
Would it? If you're already got a secret underground submarine base?
Well, no, not if you're an old World War II Nazi that's been hiding
Right.
out in Antarctica
So-
for all these years. You're
so-
sorted.
So let's talk about that briefly, if I may, right? So some of the reports say that they'd shipped hundreds of thousands of people there to these bases before the end of the war, and there could be as many as 2 million of them living in these, underground caverns that are heated by volcanic activity, because Antarctica is quite volcanic as well, right? So they're saying that there's all these big caverns with fresh water and everything because of the heat melting the ice, and they've got, they have a great life, they can grow stuff and all that. How do you feed 2 million people in an ice cavern? I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I find that one is a stretch, and I think it's to have that many people there. That would be pretty hard to hide.
Yeah,
even under the ice. I mean, 2 million people living under ice. It stretches the bounds of credulity. I mean, if there's an area of Antarctica that's not completely snow and ice, which has been rumored that there are little warm valleys and stuff. I mean, even there
are dry
weird
valleys.
stories.
Yeah, I mean we've
Yeah,
seen
and I
dry
mean the
valleys.
strange stories that came out of Operation High Jump and
Yeah.
stuff. It's speculation. I find it difficult to believe, but then there's plenty of things that I found difficult to believe 4 or 5 years ago that ended up happening. So
that's true.
I mean, at this point, all bets are off, and I'm prepared to look at any kind of evidence that someone brings me to suggest that something is true or not, and then I'll make up my mind from there.
Well, I was listening to an update SpaceX last, and they were still banging on about Mars, and they would go to Mars, and they would refuel locally on Mars, because they would be able to generate rocket fuel locally in order to fly back. And I'm thinking, how? You haven't even found water in any quantity on Mars. How are you going to generate rocket fuel locally?
Well, that's the thing. They would have to.
If they're not,
they'd have to find water.
Yeah,
and then they would have to take the equipment with them to be
and then
able to
crack
split
it.
the oxygen, hydrogen out, and then you could have a liquid fuel powered rocket. But then most of our rockets are solid fuel, or a lot of them are.
Well, SpaceX uses kerosene.
I mean, unless they've got some sort of super efficient method for splitting water, and they've actually found water.
Well, I think they're talking about taking a nuclear reactor with them, because I think they're going to try and use a nuclear powered rocket engine, basically, in Earth and Mars. That would cut the journey time dramatically. SpaceX reckons they can do it in a third of the time that NASA would with their engine. So why not go to Titan? Titan, to me, is the obvious place to go. It's protected, right? It's got a dense nitrogen atmosphere, right? So it's protected from cosmic radiation. You don't need to live under a dome. It's got ready access to methanol on the planet. It's got ready access to water. It's got a magnetic field around it that Mars doesn't have, so you're protected from solar radiation as well. So it's the ideal place to go. Whereas you go to Mars, you got to dig down because
Yeah, but it doesn't have the same. I mean, saying you're going to a moon, we've already been to a moon. Well, they like to say we've been to a moon. We
right,
obviously
but
don't think they've been to a moon, but it's something about people going to Mars. So to some extent,
Mars is a
because
piddly
I mean,
shithole.
in pure science terms, I agree with you. But I don't know. It is the short answer. I mean, Mars, technically speaking, Mars is slightly closer.
So, you know what else I was listening to? I was listening to, well, after I listened to the SpaceX update, I was listening to the old NASA. The astronauts talking what they do. And apparently it only takes 3 days to get to the moon in a Saturn V. So why is it going to take SpaceX and NASA 3 weeks?
Well, because they stupidly didn't keep their notes from when they did it the first time, and none of them can remember how it was done, so they're having to reinvent the wheel, which is the most absurdly ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, who even does that? I mean, governments have got files floating around of meaningless tax receipts from 30 years ago. I mean, the idea that they...
I mean, what gets me is we've got a Saturn V, right? Takes off from the Earth, goes to the moon. It drops off a small ship that allegedly lands on the moon. You spend a couple of days on the moon. You jump back in your small ship, go back up to the command ship, fly back to the Earth and land. Right? One rocket, one launch. Okay. SpaceX.
It wasn't even the rocket that went to the moon.
But, well, yeah, I know.
It was literally just the nose cone.
Yeah, I know.
It was the bit in the nose. And
yeah, the command module. Yeah,
fell back to Earth.
So one rocket, right? One launch. SpaceX and NASA to get to the moon and back. At least 24 launches. 24 launches to get to the moon and back because of the amount of tanking they have to do on the ship that's going to actually go to the moon.
One wonders if they actually understand how much evidence they're giving those of us who don't believe that humans went to the moon the first time.
How can you even think we did?
Well, I don't think we did. I mean, I think, in fact, just based on the stuff that they're having to do now to try and get back there.
If you ever get to the moon, if people ever got to the moon and had a look around, I bet you'd find a dead Russian. I really do.
It's entirely possible.
I think you'd find a dead Russian on the moon. I think they got there first, but never came back. Maybe. And that's why both sides stay stum. Because America pretend they got there, and Russia won't tell them they didn't, or won't say they didn't, because then they'd have to admit that they sent a guy and left him on the moon to die. just like they did with the dog.
Yeah. Well, that's space. They sent the dog into space.
Yeah. I wasn't meaning they sent the dog.
Well, this is another thing about the moon landings, is because the Russians they sent the first man into space, the first woman into space, the first dog into space, the first monkey into space,
or satellite into space.
The first satellite into space, and then suddenly the Americans send the first person to the moon.
Yeah,
perfectly first time round. And now we're scrambling around needing 24 bloody rockets to get the fuel into orbit just to get them the shit that they need to get to the moon and back. I mean,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's bonkers.
Yeah.
And then
There's dead
then we
Russian on the
factor
moon.
in the hollow moon theory as well,
Oh yeah.
which is an interesting one.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because
But in terms of your original question,
you think we've
about
actually
why?
right? Sorry.
No, go on. No,
You,
go on.
you think we've actually? You think we've actually landed robotic craft on the moon?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So you
And
accept that,
I think we've landed robotic craft on Mars as well.
and you think we did hit that? We did hit the moon with a stage or whatever it was, or remember they fired that satellite into the moon and it rang like a bell.
Mm-hmm.
Rang for like 3 hours or something.
Well, yes, because I do think that we can send craft to the moon. I'm not
Right.
sure that I don't think we can send people.
Apart from the
But
Russians,
it's
just couldn't get
apart
back.
apart from the Russians.
There's a dead
Yeah, I
cosmonaut
thought
on the moon.
they'd send old Sergey off to the moon. So gave him a shovel and told him to go and build a moon base for them, and that a bunch of other people would be showing up in a few
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah,
But then, I
no
mean, if we
laughing
have a
matter.
secret, well, no, I mean, poor old Sergey stuck up on the moon. That's not a good way to go.
We
But
should make a movie about it.
I mean, then there's Gary McKinnon's
Secret
because
Space
the thing
Force.
that he found was just a simple, like a bog standard boring list of what were labeled as extraterrestrial officers.
What were they called? Was it extraterrestrial or was it off world or something? What was it?
I think it might have been off world. I think you're right. I think it might have been off world. But he allegedly found this list of U.S. Air Force officers, I guess, because it's the Air Force that does all space related stuff, or did until Space Command came along.
See, I think it should have been the Navy.
But then there's also people that say that we've already got bases on. I mean, who's to say we don't already have a base on Titan? Maybe they don't. Maybe they're not letting Elon Musk go there because he'd interfere with the fact that the US have got
So maybe
some
we
sort of
do
space
have a
base.
secret space. Maybe we
And
do.
then-
I mean, right. So let's look at all these stupid. Think about all these UFOs that you find, and nearly all of them turn. You know, when you actually track them and where they are, they're nearly all in military test zones. You know, so
But particularly nuclear weapons.
yeah,
They seem to be awfully fascinated by.
So are the owls UFOs? Are they owls, and we're just fanning about?
Well, yeah, I mean, are they? They could be secret craft. I mean, they could be secret German craft that were picked up after the end of World War II and transported back to America, and the Americans were testing them. And so there's that explanation. They could be genuine aliens of some description, perhaps some sort of, because one of the theories that I heard was that those greys are actually some sort of android / cyborg type artificial form of life. Because
where did you get this theory, and was it is it reputable? Is your source reputable?
It doesn't come from me. I can't actually remember off the top of my head where that one came from. I've loads of these little factoids in my head. I'd have to look it up. But the theory behind it is that a sufficiently advanced race that was capable of space travel would be probably more than capable of building some sort of artificial robot, and effectively those alien craft that we see could well be drones of some description that are being piloted by.
So basically it's their version of Curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, the fact of the matter is that space travel is extremely damaging. I mean, it's just being in Earth's orbit and being in zero gravity. It's not good. It's not a healthy thing for people. You lose bone. They have to constantly exercise, and they still lose bone. And when they come back to planet, particularly some of the ones that have been like on the International Space Station for ages, some of them can barely walk when they get back.
Yeah.
Because of the muscle wastage and stuff. So if you're an advanced race that is wanting to explore, and I mean, one of the
Why
the
don't
key
we?
points about
Yeah.
intelligence is curiosity. So, if you're an intelligent race, you would be naturally curious about
Why don't
the universe.
Why don't we send disabled people to space then? Well, it can only be good for them. You know, if you think about it, people that don't have, if they haven't got the use of their legs, right, send them to
I
space
don't
to
know
work
how
on the
much use
ISS.
Stephen Hawking would have been on the
Okay,
ISS.
maybe not Hawking, but look at Ben. I mean, he hobbles about and does his thing on his.
Adam's making a point. You're getting a bit eugenicsy here, John.
No, I'm just saying it would be a useful career choice if you were disabled. Go to space, you could be an astronaut. Well,
Did
did
you
that
watch
in
The
Doom? Do you remember
Expanse?
Doom the movie?
Yeah, it was
You remember
garbage.
Pinky? Do you remember? Oh, I love that movie. Do you remember Pinky? Remember Pinky? He was the guy. He was the guy that had a set of wheels instead of a set of legs.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, so people like that.
You have strange taste in films.
Yeah. I like
Doom is. I mean, I remember playing the original computer game, and that was amazing. I was hooked on that for ages.
Cool.
Back in the 90s, but the movie was just dog shit.
Oh no, scream! It was a scream, and especially when they did the first person point of view. When he goes, script out. Old Carol Urban gives it.
Trying to turn a computer game into a movie has
gets
all
a
sorts of
BFG.
challenges.
Yeah.
Well, the BFG 9000 was epic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I used to be able to skip through the whole of Doom on extreme mode in about an hour. Once
Did you ever play
know it,
Quake?
Yes, Quake was fun.
Quake was good. What we used to do when I was in charge of the computer labs at Paisley Uni, we used to set a lab aside at Christmas and set up a Quake server, and then just let people in to play the IT staff against them at Quake. So we would play the students at Quake during our lunch breaks and things like that. Good way of.
Yeah, I used to play a lot of games. I was completely addicted to World of Warcraft for about 7 years, and I was head of a raiding guild and all kinds of stuff. And then, I decided that, because I mean, I work in front of a computer all day, so when at the worst point of my Warcraft addiction, I mean, there were days I would do 18 hours in front of a computer.
Oh, you could have been a Korean. Died at your computer. I forgot to go to the toilet and I forgot to eat, so I died at my computer.
But that's MMORPGs, millions of men online role playing as girls. Mm-hmm. That's actually what MMORPG stands for.
Yeah, I think it probably is. It's like son, when he was playing games and things, he would say things like, "I made a new friend," and I goes, "He's probably a 40-year-old Russian sitting in his underpants."
Dear.
Oh.
So yeah, my gaming days are pretty much over now.
Yeah. Right.
Occasionally.
So where were we?
We were talking about UFOs.
Yeah. Yeah. So it could be us. I think they are us. I really do. I think they're us. I don't think they are aliens, and I don't think.
Are they? Do you think that they're people from the future or people from an alternate dimension?
Well, I think they're from the military.
Right. So you think that the whole thing is just a cover for?
Yeah, because the military's. If you think about it, the military's normally 20 to 25 years ahead of civilian. I mean, look at the SR-70, and that was built in the 60s.
Yeah, but when you look at some of those, particularly they're called UAPs, underwater. Anyway, there's the unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, and then there's USPs.
Submersible
that go underwater.
Yeah.
They're
just drones.
And I mean, that strikes me as being a bit more than 25 years ahead of what we've got somehow. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean,
that's just what I think.
Well, I'm not discounting the possibility that it is some sort of military thing, because ultimately, But then where did those come from? Because if the Americans captured some sort of Nazi flying saucers at the end of World War II and took them back to the US and started experimenting with them, where did the Nazis get that technology? Because I mean, there's the Hannibal, which we covered in our UFO rabbit hole.
Glocker.
And what was that German rocket engine? Oh, not von Braun. There was another guy. I think his name began with an H. He was the one that created the Hannibal and Die Glocke, which was the bell, which is another weird one. So it's entirely possible that what we think of as UFOs, that the military and the media kind of created the whole UFO story as a cover story for people seeing strange craft in the sky. And if that's the case, then I don't suppose they'd get off world. But then, if we're going down the solar micronova route, then to start with, it's going to impact every planet in the solar system. The electromagnetic changes would also mean that potentially being in space, because being in space is dangerous enough as it is, but as the Earth's magnetic field gets weaker, being in space in near Earth orbit becomes even more dangerous because there's less protection.
Here we go again, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but get to Titan, because you've got Saturn's magnetic field encompassing that moon, and Saturn's magnetic field is ginormous.
Yeah, but the thing is that these changes, particularly on the sun, and what Davidson talks about, the galactic current sheath, these are changes that are like galaxy wide, effectively, because it's all to do with electromagnetic changes happening in the galaxy.
Have you ever seen the theory that the Earth was inside Saturn? Inside it's kind of almost like a brown dwarf. You would be inside the shell at the glow of creations. You were encompassed inside this, and you get spat out at some point, and that's how we ended up where we are just now.
That seems highly unlikely.
Well, I mean, have a look at the electric universe stuff, because that kind of encompasses a lot of that. Have a look at some.
I mean, there is a theory that because the Earth isn't, there's a set distance. There's a mathematical formula. I can't remember the name of the guy who created it, but it determines the distance. I think it's Bode's law. I think it's Bode's law that determines the distance of planets from the sun, and the Earth doesn't fit in with that. But we have an asteroid belt in between.
Our solar system's the wrong way around, though. Because normally the gas giants are closer to the sun, and the rocky planets are further away. Our solar system's backwards.
And then there's all the crazy stuff about the moon relative to the Earth as well. Yeah, in terms of its size and its distance and everything else, that it almost looks like it was actually specifically placed there.
But that's only recently, in relative terms, in the last few tens of thousands of years or whatever, because the moon, the moon's moving, 1.5 centimeters every year further away. So
and if you look,
at some point it's going to be too small, and at one point it was too big.
Yeah, but I've always thought that there'd been some sort of impact on the Earth, because if you look at the other planets in the solar system, they're all relatively solid spheres. The Earth is the only one that's really cracked like an egg, which is why we have all the tectonic activity, and we have plates that move around.
Well, it's hard to tell because you can't see the surface of Venus.
And I mean, there's all sorts of crazy theories. Like I said, there's the hollow moon, which is an absolutely fascinating one. Whether it's true or not, I mean, ultimately, who knows?
You should be able to work that out, because the size of the moon. You should be able to work out what the amount of gravity have on the moon would be, if you know its relative mass.
Yeah, and I think that the thing with the moon is it defies a lot of different explanation because it's the distance between the Earth and the moon, and the moon and the sun, and the Earth and the sun, relative to the size of the moon, is why we get a total eclipse of the sun. Now, having that happen just by accident, particularly given that no other planet in the solar system has a moon relatively as large as the Earth does.
Yeah, it's over.
That doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you look at Mars, Mars's moons are tiny by comparison.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? And it's just, I mean, there's plenty of stuff about the formation of the planet that we just don't know. But there's aspects of it that just don't make any sense. Because when you look at the spacing of the planets, we have an asteroid belt. I think it's in between Mars and Jupiter.
Yeah.
I think there's an asteroid belt there, which is where a planet would, if you went by Bode's law, there would be a planet there, but there isn't. There's a whole bunch of rock.
Yeah.
And we have a planet that is somehow closer to the sun. So perhaps at some point,
yeah, but then
after the solar system formed, we had some sort of extrasolar something that came into the solar system.
Right. Let's look at Venus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Venus, first of all, rotates the opposite direction from all the other planets. Right? So what's going on there?
That's a good question.
So it spins the wrong way. So I think Venus could be the culprit. Did it come from an extrasolar, orbit or something? And did it come in and cause a problem? Did it hit something?
Who knows?
Did it scalp Mars? I mean, look at the Valley Marinaris, right? It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
The worst of Grand Canyon. There's no way that was carved out by water. That's electrical machining. That's what that is. So did a planet come so close to dig that up?
Well, that's actually the that big scar on Mars that looks like it's that's actually something that Ben Davidson has covered, and apparently there is some sort of electrical charge that can go from planet to planet.
Yeah, it's electrical machining.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
That's exactly what it is. And I'm pretty much convinced that's what the Grand Canyon is as well, because there is no way the Colorado River created the Grand Canyon. Look at the Grand Canyon from above. It's not a river. It's got tributaries. It's got little filaments that go off. It looks exactly like that electrical discharge that you get when you run, like if you run an electric current through a bit of wood.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly like that. I think that again is electrical machining. I think that's. And then when you look at the moon, right? Look at the craters they have. So they have craters, right, with other craters inside them.
Mm-hmm.
And they have craters with that ball shape in the middle. You shouldn't have a ball shape, because if you've got an impact crater, you can't have a ball in the middle, because that's where the thing hits. So it wouldn't be there. So it's all electrical machining, and it can be replicated. Like there's a guy called Billy Yelverton, I think, who's replicated all this in physical experiments using electricity and dust and sand and stuff.
So are you suggesting that that's a natural phenomenon, or are you suggesting that
it's a natural phenomenon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
Good, because I would have pushed back if you'd suggested it was ETs of some sort.
Oh no, I think it's like everything's got a charge. I mean, our atmosphere's got a charge. The Earth's got a charge. That's why we get
We've got a charge.
Yeah, we've got a charge. That's why we get electrical discharges between things. I think it's all pretty natural. Just think sometimes planets get close enough that they'll discharge against each other. And same goes with comets. When comets come in, because outgassing doesn't explain the massive tails you get, right? And sometimes the tails are going the wrong way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, have a look at that. So, and when remember when we sent that spacecraft to that comet, and it turned out it wasn't a ball of ice; it was a fucking rock. So where was the outgassing coming from? I think it's electrical discharge because it's coming from outside sun's influence, and it's coming in with a different charge to the sun, and it's basically it's an electric discharge. It's grounding itself. I think that's what's happening.
I mean, it could be. It could also be. It's in the same way that when a comet or something enters the Earth's atmosphere, you start getting the
Yeah.
friction
Yeah.
with the air, and that makes it glow.
Yeah.
Perhaps comets encounter some sort of deep space particles, cosmic rays, something that acts in a similar way and creates that tail effect.
Yeah.
But it's also, I mean, to say that every single comet out there is a solid ball of rock is...
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But the one we sent, that, remember that one that's shaped like two balls that are stuck together,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with a waist. Yeah. That turned out to be a rocky surface, right?
Well, that was the European Space Agency mission.
Yeah, I think something like that. And when they went to hit it, they had like ice pick things that were going to grab the ice. And when it hit it, there was a big flash just before it hit it. Would have been an electrical ground. They would have electrically discharged ground itself.
It would make sense. I mean, we live in an electrical universe.
I think we do. I think we very much do. And I think we underestimate the power of electromagnetism. I think it has more to do with anything than any of the other forces. I mean, there's still a debate whether gravity actually exists or not. You know, I mean, if you follow Einstein, gravity is not a force, just the curvature of space-time. You know, so you can't claim it as a force. So does gravity actually exist?
Well, I'm not sure I'm actually smart enough to answer that question. Because once we start talking about gravity, I start feeling really
heavy. You start feeling heavy. Oh,
no,
not gravity's weighing down on me.
No, not so much that as just a bit dumb because I don't.
Gravity's really bizarre. It's really bizarre.
It is. It is very bizarre, and I mean the universe that we live in is bizarre. And but what I would say that I do totally agree with you about, is that there is a lot about the way that the universe works and about the way that we work as beings that I don't think we understand even a little bit.
And I think that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and no, that's not the problem.
No,
the problem.
Right. The problem is
the people who.
Yeah, you're going to say
no,
it.
The problem is the people who think they understand when they actually don't.
Exactly. And then they come up with esoteric things to explain why their theories are right, like dark matter and dark energy. Energy and matter that you can't see, hear, touch, or discover in any form whatsoever, but it exists because it makes their theory work. And that's Absolutely, just wrong.
But that's so much of the science. I mean,
I know. And why would people believe that? Because, I mean, look at Feynman himself. He says that, you know, if you can't prove it by experiment, then your theory's wrong. Yeah, you have to go back and redo it.
That's true, but if your funding is dependent on you seeing the world in a particular way, then ultimately, if you have to somehow get a square peg into a round hole and you can't find a square hole for it, and the person paying your bills is saying, well, clearly that peg has to go into that hole, you'll end up shaving bloody edges off the square peg until you actually artificially turned it into a round peg and you can get it through the bloody hole and pick up your paycheck.
Hey, 100%. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what happens, isn't it? Exactly what happens.
But it's also, I mean, I love speculating about stuff like this, and
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing that you'll never really reach an answer, because every time you think you get to an answer, you just end up with more questions. But that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
It's the journey that's the fun part. It's the investigation rather than the actually finding out that one bit of truth, because I don't think that one bit of truth exists. I think it's all, everything's relative.
Here's a good question from Voodoo S3, right? Is gravity even a thing, or is it just mass stroke weight?
That's
Like, if something has a greater mass than air, then it will fall through air, i.e. down, right? So yeah. So what you're going on the density type argument?
Well, that density argument, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there is an absolutely fascinating video. You'll probably find it on YouTube
Right.
if you search for anvil floating in mercury.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
someone set about to prove what Voodoo is saying
Mhm.
by if the gravity was always true and the weight just pulled it down, then an anvil would not be able to float in mercury, because the anvil is way more dense and would be pulled. I don't know. I mean, it's a brilliant video.
But how dense is?
One of
I
those.
thought mercury was really, really dense. That's the problem. An anvil's less dense than mercury.
No. The anvil's more dense, so it floats. But then,
No. It's got to be less dense to float.
the anvil has to be less dense than the mercury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mercury is a molten metal, right? Steel's a solid metal. But if steel's got more space between its molecules or atoms than mercury has, even though it's in a liquid form, then the anvil will float.
Mm.
Yeah. That would be expected behavior.
It's still, I mean,
It's
the same
interesting.
as
I mean,
but then if you
mercury's
think about oil tankers.
Mercury's weird though. Mercury's a really weird thing, and there's a lot of lore around Mercury and the Germans and the Glocka and all that stuff using spinning Mercury to give an anti gravity effect. And you know, you get an anti gravity effect if you put really high voltage. Current doesn't matter. Current can be very low, but you put really high voltage through something, you can get an electromagnetic effect that will start to lift.
You can do all sorts of crazy things with electromagnets and magnetic fields generally.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating, and I mean, I kind of wished I understood the physics about it a little bit better.
Have you ever seen John Hutchison?
Yes.
Some of the stuff he
Yeah,
does. I mean, it's hard.
Judy Wood refers to him a lot in her presentations as well. I mean, some of the stuff that he
pretty good.
What's that thing that we covered it on the
Yeah,
9/11
we did,
episode where with the bent girders, which just don't make any sense. But then when you look at some of Hutchinson's experiments, he's doing exactly the same thing on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
But he's causing metal to bend and become deformed in a similar sort of way. And it does make you wonder what they're hiding from us. What actual, because we say, oh yeah, the deep state has got tech that's 20, 25 years ahead.
It's always the military though. It's always the military.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in Dread Eye's possibly on it. Gravity is just electrical attraction. Yeah, I think it.
Yeah. No, that would make complete sense.
And that's why if you run enough current through something, you can make them repel, because effectively you're changing the which gives you anti-gravity.
Absolutely. Which you would need if you were going to have a space force of some description.
Yeah.
But then that does beg the question that if the planet is going to end, goes back to where we started this particular tangent or train of thought or whatever, that is people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos going to go underground or into space?
Well, got to go into space, because if you go underground, there's no way out.
Depending on where you are.
Yeah, no.
I mean, if
right.
you've got some sort of information that means you know roughly
but
where the planet is going to flood.
But if you think about my thesis there is that if no matter what you do, if you're on the Earth when this happens, right, there's always a chance you're going to be compromised. Right? Whereas if you're in space and you've taken the right precautions, right, then there's a chance that you wouldn't be compromised.
Although if there is a large amount of nastiness coming from the sun, if you're in space, I mean, it's like all those places in Turkey, like Derinkuyu. There are loads and loads of underground cities, etc.
Imagine this, right? Yeah, you've got your rocket or your spaceship or your space station up there, and it's vulnerable. Then you fly up all these tanking flights full of water, and you surround your space station with water, which is a fantastic insulator from cosmic and solar radiation. So you have all this water.
There's going to be a ejector as well. It's not just
but that's okay. But that's okay, because what you do is you position yourself such that you're going to have either the moon or the Earth between you and the sun.
Yeah.
So you've got a rocky body, take the brunt of it. You're hiding behind it, and you're surrounded by water. So when there won't be any magnetic field, because that'll get wiped away, but you've got your own personal survivable bubble.
It would be the ultimate in selfishness.
Well, I'm not saying it's an individual thing. I mean, I think if you had the resources to do it, you would do it for hundreds, thousands of people, right? But the question is, you never know when it's going to happen. So when do you start? And then how do you start thinking about, do you rotate groups that are up there? Because you don't want to leave people up there all the time, because as you said, they'll be affected by microgravity, right? So they'll get issues and problems.
Yeah, but if the planet's been destroyed, I mean, if there's been some sort of global cataclysm,
you haven't had it. You haven't had it. So what you're doing is you're waiting for this to happen. So what do? You select groups of people, like Team A to Team D or whatever, and you rotate them on a 4-weekly or a 4-monthly schedule. So if Team B's in the place when it happens, Team B's the ones that survive, and it's just the luck of the draw.
Yeah, but you do have and you do have that slight problem of all of your infrastructure being completely destroyed, and whoever's in space is basically stuck there permanently, pretty much.
Well,
unless you've got some, because we couldn't splash down in the sea if there's no ships to come and get you.
Well, yeah, but if you're talking SpaceX, you can land. You can come back and land. You know what I mean? They're pretty much
have to have a civilization there to be able to support you. If civilization's been completely destroyed.
Oh, I think you've got to resolve yourself to the fact that you're going back to probably this just after the Stone Age, basically, and you're going to have to rebuild, and maybe you'll try and build giant stone monuments to warn people of what might happen in the future. Hold on. Have we been here before?
No, I just had a thought about Zuckerberg building his disaster compound in Hawaii. Maybe it's because they don't like him. And maybe they know that Hawaii is basically just going to turn into this molten inferno.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, Mark, don't worry. You build it in Hawaii, man. It's going to be safe there. You buy your land.
They'll what? Adam says the Irish president was taken to hospital.
Are they?
So, is this,
Radcar he's an odious.
Is he the president?
Creature.
Oh, the prime minister.
Except for Radcar. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know how Ireland works.
He's the Taoiseach.
Right.
I don't know. Is there an Irish person in the chat?
I think we've had a freaking fantastic conversation tonight. Really enjoyed.
Me
I
too.
really enjoyed. Now, there's maybe a topic that you were talking about that we were talking about earlier. Do you want to bring that up?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've had a fun chat, and
We
people
have,
people
yeah.
come into the channel for a bit of escapism. So I think we
Well,
can.
do you
We might.
want to come on tomorrow night and talk about it for 10 minutes? Because it's me and
I,
Adam tomorrow night. Ben's.
I might do. I'm not sure what my. Have I got any plans for tomorrow night? I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to check and get back to you.
We'll have a check and we could do it tomorrow. Because that would be quite good. You know, you could pop in for half an hour or whatever. Or
Yeah, no, I could. I mean,
yeah,
I think I can certainly pop in for half an hour.
yeah, let's do that. So
Cool.
I've had a great time tonight.
Me too.
I think it's good to try and stretch your brain because, and I don't mean that in a condescending way or a patronising way, but you know, sometimes I think we think too little about the big things. You know, the really big things, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're bogged down in the minutiae of our daily lives and their existence, and then you suddenly look at what's happening in the big picture, and you know, when you look at it, you're like, wow, I'm overwhelmed. You know.
And
Yeah,
it's nice to bounce ideas around
yeah,
as
that's
well,
it's good.
because everybody's got different theories about this stuff, and
Hmm?
these are not the kind of conversations that you can have outside of this group of hours of people
Yeah,
who ask these sort of questions. Because if you were in a pub full of normies and you started talking about this stuff, that you would just, it's happened to me loads,
oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
you just get these blank. It's this blank, gormless expression that they give you. That's just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to shut up now,
yeah, yeah. And
and then it's
I know. And the thing
and then you
is,
usually
sorry,
excuse to finish your drink and
yeah,
leave.
the thing is, you need to be able to talk about these things, and I hate to use the phrase, but this is a kind of safe space, you know, because nothing's off the limits here. And
Absolutely.
it's a safe space because nothing's off limits. That's why it's a safe space, not because it's a controlled space, but
Mm.
because you can bring out anything you absolutely want. You know,
Well,
within
apart from stuff that
yeah
YouTube would
within
ban us for.
within the constraints of the platform. You know, but that's not our doing. But yeah, and that's a good one from there's a good one in there from where was it? Magnets. That's the next thing, because magnetism's really fucking hard.
It's interesting. I've seen videos of people claiming to have perpetual energy devices that basically just run on opposing magnets, where the magnets, the
Yeah, I know
force
what
of
you
the
mean.
magnets essentially
Yeah,
creates the spin, and get more energy out than you put in. Um, and
you
I
need.
mean,
The thing is, you can't verify those unless you are actually physically there, can check it for wires, because
yeah, that's true.
you've got to be dubious about all these things until you can actually physically go in and look underneath it, around it, and everything. Make sure there's no hidden wire, because it's so easy to power these things,
That's true.
especially today. You know.
But then when you actually think about magnets, the principle of it actually makes sense. But
No,
I
it
mean, I'd
doesn't.
be
Right. So it
fascinated.
doesn't, because
Why doesn't it make
think about
sense?
this. Think about this, right? So somebody put a car on a video, right? They got a magnet on a pole sticking out over the bonnet of the toy car. And they've got the South Pole facing the car. They put a North Pole magnet on the bonnet of the car facing the South Pole. So those two magnets will attract each other, right? So
It's not going to move the car forward.
it's not gonna. It's not. It is definitely not gonna move
But
the car
that's not
forward.
the sort of device that I'm talking about
Yeah,
having seen.
but that's what people. That's what some people think would work, and it
Yeah,
just can't.
5-year-olds.
Like, well, yeah, I know, but
I mean, I remember
people.
having thoughts like that when I was 5 or 6 or 7. I mean, it's the first time as a kid you encounter a magnet and you realize that you can move a paper clip through a piece of paper with a magnet. and you
Yeah.
can move things around a desk with a magnet
Yeah.
underneath and stuff like that. But no, I mean, ultimately, I think that if we're going to find something like over unity energy or something like that, I reckon magnetism is going to have something to do with it, almost certainly.
Yeah, or quantum flux.
Mm.
See,
But it's endless. I mean, you could just spend hours and hours
oh,
and
you could,
hours
you
and
could.
hours going from one tangent to another. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and you know, the thing is, there's always something else to talk about, and I think we've done well tonight. I think we had a great I have had a brilliant conversation. I hope the audience has enjoyed it. I really do, because I've really enjoyed tonight's conversation, and it's, as I said, it stretched the brain a little, because you got to think about all sorts of different things.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, it's fun. It's certainly more fun than watching a soap opera.
I don't know if Mercury can be magnetized.
That's a good question, Spencer.
A good question. Can it be? If you could magnetize it, though, would it stay magnetized because it's a fluid?
Yeah, that's an interesting question for a bit of research. I might have a look at that.
Yeah, I think Mercury's definitely worth exploring.
Adam's going to ask his wife to order some mercury.
Yeah, and just don't make sure you don't get organic mercury, and don't touch it, because that's the stuff that kills you.
Yeah. Yes, mercury. I mean,
Mercury itself can be handled fairly safely, right? But don't try this at home. This is not advice, okay?
Well, no, the way to test it would be with a thermometer.
Yeah.
If you can run a magnet along a thermometer and get the mercury to move, then you'll know the mercury is magnetic.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, if they repel it,
it's
that's
also
fine.
a safe way of doing it without
touching.
I mean, we don't want to encourage to get heavy metal poisoning.
No, do not touch mercury, especially organic mercury, because that goes through your skin like that, and the next thing you know, you've got no life.
Yes, we will not be held responsible for anyone's experiments. So, just making that disclaimer.
Don't go down. Yeah, no, I mean, Adam says he used to hold it in his hand in chemistry. Yeah, that's regular mercury, and you can do that. Your teachers were right, you know, because it won't go through the skin. But organic mercury is a completely different action, and I don't know the details, but I just know that organic mercury is the one you stay away from, like Novichok, near it. Or Saturn.
Well, yeah, that's just because, I mean, obviously you can find them in every corner shop. I mean,
oh, there's a thing. So, Julie, did you ever do the dust explosion experiment? Do you still get to do that? Because that was a brilliant explosion experiment we did in chemistry. You know, you get a paint tin. You poke a hole in the bottom, and you put like a pipe in it. Okay, and you attach a air bulb or a nozzle or something to the pipe. Because when you squeeze the bulb or produce the air, then anything in the pipe will be thrown up into the paint can, right? What you do is you put the pipe in and you put flour in the pipe, just regular red flour or white flour, whatever. You just put some flour in the pipe, and you put a candle in the can, and you seal the lid. Okay. Before the candle goes out, you squeeze the bulb, and the lid come off with a bang, because the flour becomes explosive, because it's vapor. It's not vaporized, but what happens is the small particles get thrown into the can, and suddenly, woof, everything goes up, because flour's a carbohydrate. What's a carbohydrate?
Sugar.
Yeah, exactly. Carbon and hydrogen. So, boom.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Right, exploding flour. This is I thought we were going to encourage people not to blow themselves
No,
up.
that was an experiment that we did. That it's not something that's going to kill you. Just don't stand, don't look down on the lid. Let the lid be away, because the lid will hit the ceiling. It will
Yeah,
come off
possibly
with
don't do it in
force.
your nice clean kitchen either.
But yeah, no, it's an experiment we did at school, for crying out loud. It's not exactly banned,
Terrorism.
Mind you, we used to
Come
cut up
on.
rats at school as well. Or do you still get to do that?
I don't know. Do they still do dissections at school? Probably not.
We used to.
It's the kind of thing that drives the animal rights people absolutely nuts.
They gave us scalpels. I mean, we were like, what, 13,
Yeah,
14?
no, we did dissections at school as well.
13, 14, 15. Frogs, rats. I mean, we were cutting all these things up with actual scalpels. Our chemistry teacher used to come into the class with a beaker, black coffee in it, and sit and drink it. I think he used to think he was cool. He was not cool.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that science teachers did.
Yeah.
We had one science teacher that nearly didn't quite blow the class up, but he was basically doing it was an experiment to create something explosive, and I think he misjudged how explosive. And we had a protective plexiglass screen up and stuff, so there was no danger. We all sat at the other side of the classroom, but it's definitely blowing shit up is a good way to get kids interested in science.
See, when I was in school in Hong Kong, there was a guy there who wasn't strictly speaking a teacher, but he provided all these cars and motorbikes and go-karts, and he taught us how to drive during lunchtime. And this was all part of the school. I mean, it wasn't part of the curriculum, but it was there and you could do it. And I ended up driving cars, motorbikes, and go-karting. I mean, I was on the 8th International Karting Prix of Hong Kong, in which I came second. Right? But, and you think about it, health and safety would have a fucking field day. I mean, I fell off a motorbike wearing shorts and a short sleeve shirt.
Yeah, but half the stuff that we did was kids. I mean, there was no health and safety in Zambia. I've got a scar on my arm from climbing over a fence that had spikes on it, and I slipped and I got my arm. The spike on the fence went through my arm. Well, I didn't quite impale myself, but I did. But it just went in my arm and not up my bum. It could have been much more unfortunate.
It could have been, mate. Dear. But yeah, I mean, we used to one of our friends. They had a house with a swimming pool, and it sounds posh, but it's one of the above ground swimming pools, and it was maybe like 5 or 6 feet. We used to go up on the roof and jump into this thing.
Yeah, it's the kind of. Yeah, we used to do stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
I mean, because I spent my until I was 11 in Africa, so pretty much everybody I knew had a pool in their garden, and if the pool happened to be near a tree or whatever, I mean, we had one friend with a big tire on a swing, and it was near the pool, and so you'd swing, and if you swung the tire far enough, you could go into the pool.
And if you didn't,
you ended up with you doing a face plant into the floor. But I mean, and it's just like you'd injure yourself and you'd go crying to your mum, and she'd give you a slap for being
for being stupid. Yeah, I know. It's like we used to go to this. We had friends that lived on an island, which was outside. Well, it was part of Hong Kong, but it was in the harbour, basically. It was quite far away. So we used to have to get a boat, and what we did, you could go down to the Navy base, and you could just sign a boat out. It sounds crazy, right? But you could go down and you could sign a boat out, jump on the boat, and take off across the harbour to Stonecutters Island, right? Because Stonecutter's Island was a transmission station, or because it had a big hill on it, so they had a big transmitter on it at the top of the hill, and we used to go across there, and they had they had an outdoor swimming pool and everything, and it was brilliant fun. We used to like go and stay with friends there for a couple of nights. But every morning when you went down to the swimming pool, you had to wait until the guy, the Navy guy that was in charge of the pool had been in and taken the snakes out the pool.
Snakes. What?
Yeah, snakes.
Why? In Scotland?
No,
In a
this
pool?
was in Hong Kong.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah, this was in Hong Kong.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I missed the Hong Kong part.
Yeah, but it was brilliant. Yeah, you could just go down and sign a boat. And we used to go down, maybe like 10 or 12 families would go down and sign out a boat. And you'd put all the stuff on it, and you'd go. We used to call it a banyan. I don't know why, but it's probably a Chinese word for picnic. But we'd go out into the harbour and find a completely deserted beach on an island that nobody lived on and have a picnic there and the whole day. And the adults would all get drunk and we'd run about like idiots, Absolutely brilliant fun.
Yeah, no, we used to do the same on Lake Kariba in Zambia. Drive down from Lusaka for the day. That was always good fun. But I mean, it's also what you're saying about snakes. This is the thing about growing up in a place like that. There were certain things when I was a kid that were normal, which to a kid being brought up in Europe would be completely abnormal. Like, you know which trees to climb and which trees you shouldn't climb if you don't want to get bitten by a snake. Like mango trees, never ever climb a mango tree because they're really dense foliage and the bone slugs love them. A bone slug, they're probably about maybe an inch, couple of inches thick and not very long, maybe 2 or 3 foot, and they are absolutely deadly. And if you get bitten by one, they're not quite as bad as black mambas. But I mean, black mambas are native to Zambia as well, and they're worse because if they, I remember it wasn't a black mamba, but I remember going to bed in the winter once, and got into bed and put my feet at the end, and there was something very strange there, and I pulled it out, and there was a brown, just a house snake, and they're not. I mean, they if you piss them off, they might bite you.
I don't like snakes.
They basically just, it's because it's warm. Because I mean, nighttime in Zambia in the winter can get cold for relatively speaking. And if you're a snake, then but it's just something you live with. It doesn't stop you climbing trees. You just don't climb certain trees. And I wouldn't dream of swimming in a river or anything like that.
I understand that. We used to catch geckos at school. After you'd had your lunch, go and catch a gecko and put it in your lunchbox and take it home and release it in your bedroom. Because if you had geckos in your bedroom, never get bothered with mosquitoes.
No, that's very true.
I always had a gecko in my bedroom, and I'd be lying in bed and you'd see it run across the ceiling. And the thing was, I didn't give a shit,
Oh, geckos are harmless.
Well, I know, but I mean, they can get quite big. Some of them are like that long or whatever. But yeah. Oh,
I did have an ex got freaked out by one when we were in Egypt once.
Yeah.
But that. What's Adam saying? Sat in a bar in Thailand and there was the size of a Yorkshire Terrier eating food off the bar. I think that was a gecko. I think that was probably a different type of reptile.
I was in Australia once and been up. We're up in North Queensland, and we've been up in the jungle, going to some falls or something, and we came back out here and we're driving back down the road I think we were driving back towards Cairns, and we'd passed this beach. It was a swimming beach. So we pulled in, and the guy said, swim inside the floats because that's the shark net. But he says that doesn't guarantee there's no sharks in there. Anyway, we thought we'd go for a swim because it was so hot. Jumped in the water and thought, what was the point? the water was like the same temperature as the air. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, but that's the tropics for you.
Yeah, I know.
It was.
Yeah, because Cairns is quite close to the equator, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. The other thing about being closer to the equator is the days. Because when I was a kid, daylight in Zambia, if it's 7 o'clock in the evening, it's
7
dark,
till 7.
and
Yeah,
it's pitch black. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. I mean, at most it might vary by half an hour or something like that.
yeah.
Not
like
and
here.
coming to Europe. Well, the thing is, when we were kids, bedtime was like 8 o'clock, and it was pitch black, and so you'd go to bed, and then we come back to Europe on holiday, usually in the summer for my dad's annual leave, and my parents used to have a flat in Malaga, and it doesn't get dark until like 11 o'clock at night. And so we've been sent to bed, and it's light outside, and you can hear the Spanish kids all playing around, and we're being told that we've got to go to bed. It was monstrously unfair.
Yeah. You should try living up here where it's still daylight at 11:30 at night in the summer.
Oh,
right.
yeah, no, in the summer. Yeah.
So dialect mode has been engaged apparently. So I think we'll call it, Ed, rather than muck about. I've had a great time. Thank you very much, my good friend, for coming along again.
Been great fun.
This has just been I've had a thank you, because this has been a really, really good night for me, because it's been a hard week, and in some respects I think it's been a hard week for everyone with what's going on in the world, and I think we've kind of taken a different approach tonight, and I've just had a great time, and I hope you have too.
Me too. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has.
And I will come and join you guys for half an hour or something tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that would be really cool. Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome.
I'll ping you in direct. Right, okay, and as always, like, share, subscribe. If you can, think about dropping us a donation. Really appreciate it. Or even join as a member. You know, it's only $2.99 a month. That's less than the price of a Starbucks or a Costa coffee. So, you know what to do. It's been great for you.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with, now they looking nervously. And I don't really care what you think of me, respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see. I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet next to me. I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way. I can't contain it, I'm coming out with a statement. You really changed, man, all your music and arrangement. You don't know shit, shut your mouth, you can save it. I'm the same dude that got his come up from the basement. 100 songs, 100 weeks, didn't change it. Experiments, development, intelligence, and patience. I'll do it all again, cause I never feel complacent. Let's keep the good vibes, positivity's contagious. I'm never looking back, cause I made a life that's passionate. A college graduate suppressing all his talents, yeah. He found a way to go and change, become an advocate. For taking control of your life, go out and battle. And you think you have a dream, then act on it. Get after it, get out your head and fucking capture it. You got one life to master it. Don't give up on your future, we all start losers. We're all late bloomers, gotta struggle through the sewer. What you say, yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build